Here we go.
Wrong thing. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, January 10th. If everyone would please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let the record show we have all board members present, including our new board member, Jared Gertzen. We are ready now for the adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report.
I'll make a motion. We adopt the agenda plus the personnel report.
Okay? All right, we've got a motion by Jeff and a second by Jamie. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. And Tracy, did you have a chance to look over the bills?
I did, and everything looked appropriate, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills for the month.
I'll second.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor?
Aye.
7-0. While I'm thinking of it, can we make sure that Jared knows when he's supposed to, in advance, when he's supposed to, I don't know when he's on the schedule, to review bills, but can somebody have Deb look that up, or,
Certainly.
and then we can make sure that he's aware when it's his turn.
Yep.
Twice a year, it's your turn, and you'll get whatever Pamela had until we get to July.
Might be a good idea to come a month just to see how it's done with another board member too. So we'll kind of let you know when that schedule works out, and we'll make sure you know what months are yours.
Okay, we are ready for special presentations, and first off is recognition of our new board member, Jared Gertzen. So welcome, and we're glad you're here.
Yes.
And then Board of Education Appreciation Month. We've already gotten the plaque and the pictures and
Sure.
shirt. Thank you.
I think Carrie has a few words.
Okay.
I'm going to sleep in this.
Absolutely. And you'll notice that they are Hawaiian themed. Well, every Thursday we have Pineapple Patrol or Hawaiian Shirt Thursday here at the district. And so we wanted to share that with you, but also Tournament of Champions, first Thursday game, students, faculty, they're going to have these shirts. They're going to be wearing them at Tournament of Champions. So we wanted you to be a part of that. But we also wanted to say thank you so much for being our board. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you. We know that you spend time on this, hours throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout the month. And sometimes it's not always easy. So from all of us, we say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you. Okay, now we are ready for the Tournament of Champions presentation. We've got our TOC committee making their way up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are the senior chairwomen for the 2022 Tournament of Champions. Over the next several minutes, we will be informing you about the upcoming tournament that is to be held on January 20th, 21st, and 22nd at the United Wireless Arena. We would like to begin by thanking you for your sponsorship and all your support in making this a successful tournament. This year marks the 79th annual tournament. This is the longest running tournament west of the Mississippi. Last year, because of the pandemic, TOC looked a little bit different. Instead of our traditional 8-team bracket, we had more of a Final Four concept. Last year's champion was Bishop Carroll. Again, the tournament will be held on January 20th, 21st, and 22nd at the United Wireless Arena. TOC is a class taken sophomore through senior year. Some of the committee's responsibilities include the Tournament of Champions, helping with scoreboard for volleyball, helping with WAC track, and helping in the office with any other athletic events. This year's committee includes juniors Grace Pelton. She is the daughter of Lisa and Michael Pelton. Olivia Buddy. She is the daughter of Jen and Chris Buddy. Sophomores, Madison Gwaltney. She is the daughter of Jordan and Kevin Gwaltney. and Vivian Wen. She's the daughter of Juan and Luong Wen. My name is Felicity Campfield, and I am a senior at Dodge City High School. I am the daughter of Andrew and Bethany Campfield. My activities include the Tournament of Champions, band, jazz band, National Honor Society, president of Student Council, the Demon Den, and teacher cadet. My future plans are to attend Wichita State University to get my degree in secondary education to teach mathematics. The schedule for this year's tournament includes, on Thursday, the first round of games will begin at 2 p.m. The all-academic team and current TOC committee member recognition will begin before the final game. Dodge City will play the 7 p.m. game on Thursday night. On Friday, the tournament teams will read to the elementary schools in the morning. The cheer attraction will take place before the final game at approximately 7 p.m. Dodge City will play either the 6 o'clock game or the 7:30 game Friday night. And finally, on Saturday, we will have our annual Fca Breakfast with special guest speaker Tress Way. The Dodge City High School Band will perform before the championship game, and the all-tournament awards will take place after the championship game. The teams coming to this year's tournament are Dodge City. It is our 79th appearance, and we have 14 titles, our last title being in 2011, featuring a strong leading senior class with returning starters Aiden Sowers, Cooper Shuck, Dylan Smith, and Dawson Taylor. We are currently ranked number 5 in 6A. Gordon Eisenhower, this is their second appearance. Campus, this is their second appearance. They lost in last year's 6A state championship and won the TOC in 2020. Mays, this is their fourth appearance and they have one title from 2018, featuring senior Kyle Grill, the coach's son who is already signed to play at Fort Hays State University. They are also featuring junior Avery Johnson. He is the top football recruit in the state of Kansas for the class of 2023. They are currently ranked number 1 in 5A. Manhattan, this is their 8th appearance, and they have one title, that title being from 1973. Olathe East, this is their first appearance. The last time they won the state championship was in 1998. Wichita East, this is their 41st appearance, and they have 13 titles, their last title being in 2008. They are featuring senior Larry Graham, who is a returning starter and the leading scorer, averaging 28 points per game. Earlier this year, he scored 44 points against Wichita Southeast. And finally, Wichita Heights. This is their 25th appearance, and they have 7 titles, their last title being from 2016. They are featuring junior Marcus Ziegler, who is one of the top point guards in the state. They are currently ranked number 7 in 6A. The tournament bracket will be released on January 12th. Dodge City will play the 7 p.m. game that Thursday evening. Some of the all-time greats to have played at our tournament are Jeremiah Robinson Earl. He was from Bishop Miege and currently plays in the NBA for the OKC Thunder. Adrian Griffin from Wichita East also played in the NBA, but for the Boston Celtics. Gino Grissom, who was from Hutchinson, played in the NFL for the New England Patriots, winning a Super Bowl ring in 2017. Trevor Hudgens was from Manhattan, and he is currently playing at Northwest Missouri State. He was the NCAA Division II Player of the Year and National Champion in 2021. Mark Mitchell, who is from Bishop Miege, just signed to play with Duke. Caleb Grill, who was from Mays, is currently playing at Iowa State. And finally, Ron Baker from Scott City, who played in the NBA for the New York Knicks. He was also coached by our current head football coach, Glenn O'Neill.
My name is Cameron Lenz, and I am a senior at Dodge City High School. I am the daughter of Terry and Shannon Lenz. My activities include Tournament of Champions, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, National Honor Society, varsity volleyball, varsity bowling, varsity softball, and the Demon Den. My future plans are to attend Dodge City Community College and continue my athletic career playing softball and academics. As a senior TOC girl, our responsibilities include contacting basketball coaches, cheer coaches, officials, and Man Fridays. We are also in charge of scheduling halftime performances, which include the Dodge City High School drill team, cheer team, CMS drill, DCMS drill, and other dance and gymnastics teams. This year's national anthem singers are Autumn Klein, Elizabeth Cox, Wyatt Trombley, Olivia Buddy, and the Magicals. On the championship night, all 169 members of the Pride of Southwest Kansas will perform the national anthem and a short show before the final game. The pep band will perform during all 12 games of the tournament. The Dodge City High School Junior ROTC will present the colors before the third game on Thursday and perform during halftime of the first game. The annual cheer attraction will take place before the final game on Friday. The attraction will combine the tournament's cheer teams who will perform to a mix of popular songs. The Dodge City High School drill team will perform during the final game each night. This includes a surprise routine during halftime of the championship game on Saturday. The 79th Annual Tournament of Champions brings back the traditional FCA Breakfast, sponsored by Sunflower Bank. The FCA Breakfast is a memorable highlight for both teams and fans. This year's guest speaker will be Tress Way. Tickets are $10 and may be purchased at the door. Tress Way is most known as the NFC Pro Bowl punter for the Washington football team. He is a graduate of Tulsa, Oklahoma's Union High School, and then went on to play for the Hall of Fame coach Bob Stoops at the University of Oklahoma. He graduated with his bachelor's in communications in 2012. He then married his now wife, Brianna Terang, who is also a two-sport athlete at the University of Oklahoma. They have 3-year-old twins, Bo and Harper, and a 1-year-old Hadley. The 2023 tournament teams will be Dodge City, Newton, Derby, Junction City, Shawnee Mission South, Bishop Carroll, Hutchinson, and May South. Western Plains Medical Complex has been the official partner of the Tournament of Champions since 2012. Because of their generous sponsorship, we are able to bring the top teams from the state of Kansas each year. Our other sponsors include Forget Me Not Farms, the Lions Club, United Wireless, the Rotary Club, Sonic, and Dodge City Community College. Again, the 79th Annual Tournament of Champions will take place January 20th through the 22nd. Games on Thursday will begin at 2 p.m., games on Friday will begin at 1 p.m., and games on Saturday will begin at 12 p.m. Tickets may be purchased at United Wireless Arena box office Monday through Friday from 10 to 4 p.m. or online at Ticketmaster.com. These are the seats available. Sections 102 and 103 on the east side of the arena will be reserved, and that is the direction that each performance will face. All 12 games of the tournament will be live at dchsports.com and audio by Z98. Thank you for having us here. Any questions?
You covered it well.
Great job. I'd just like to say that all of your shoes on that one picture were on point. Loved them. Thank you, ladies.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Right up there and stand right here in the front. We'll get there is a ramp right over there.
Or you can step up.
Yeah.
They're young and agile.
We don't want to photobomb this, do we? Nice job. Thank you.
And Felicity, if you want to stay up here. Yep.
All right, good evening again. Currently at the high school, we are just trying to get back into the swing of things with the new semester. Obviously, we have the Tournament of Champions coming around the corner, and enrollment for next year is also begun. Winter sports are in full spring. We have the girls and boys basketball, who are both doing well, as long as boys swimming, bowling, and wrestling. This week, for special speakers, Maria Kane has arranged for the DCHS alum, Captain Austin Bangeter from the United States Air Force, to come and talk to us. This will take place tomorrow during our flex time. And later this week, she has Tucky Allen from Kansas Workforce One, and he's going to be there to talk about soft skills and what employers look for in the work field. That's pretty much it. Is there anything I can clarify for you? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicity.
All right, Jaime Mendoza from Comanche is not here, okay? How about Evelyn Hernandez from Dodge City Middle School?
Hello, my name is Evelyn Hernandez, and happy late New Year. You're welcome. I hope you have all had a wonderful break and got to see your loved ones. I won't use much of your time today as we just barely started school and we're barely getting back into the swing of things as some of us are still trying to fix our sleeping schedule. Me included. So last week, since we only had 3 days of school, we were barely setting up our committees for the things that we wanted to do in school, and we were looking into what we wanted to do. Last month, before we went into winter break, we had finished our Me Too New project that we had been challenged to do by Joe Coles in the Hope Group, which we have another Hope Group meeting this week on the 12th. When we did the Meet Too New challenge and we had athletes bring in other kids, that way they would feel more involved, it was a success. Although we did make a survey for them and some people did think that it wasn't a good idea because some people are just have social anxiety and don't like meeting new people, but other people did do it and they thought it was fun. Our plans for February are to do candygrams for Valentine's Day as we did last year. They found it to be very successful. Therefore, we will give it another go this year. With the money that we will raise, we will set it aside for our future activities. Or possibly we will donate to a community project. We are also working on notes of kindness, where all Stuka members write notes of kindness and then we mix them up and put it into a bucket where morning greeters will hold and anybody that walks by can take one. This is a good way to make sure that kids feel more involved. Mental health nowadays is just something that kids are struggling with, and most kids don't speak upon it. And it's just a simple, it's going good, you're gonna be okay, you'll get through it, that really motivates kids to keep pushing through. We will also be doing a scavenger hunt where all the kids from around the building will be able to find hidden notes all over the building. And when they find a note, it will have a QR code or anything similar like a figure, a shape, a color. And they will fill out the survey and get a prize of some sort. This is just a fun activity for all kids so they can participate. We will work on making posters around the building to make it look more colorful. We will probably set them up in the gym, auditorium maybe, or the cafeteria, just to add more color. We will do a contest where kids can make a mural of themselves to represent who they are, and we will pick the winner and give them a prize of some sort. Extra events that are going on or that have kicked off this year so far are boys basketball, girls wrestling, and Scholars Bowl. Kima for our music department will be happening at the end of the month as well. Thank you for all your support. Great to start a new year. Anything that I can clarify for you all?
Thank you.
Great job as usual. Thanks, Evelyn.
Thank you.
We're ready now for recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period. but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. We will allow 5 minutes per person, and we ask that if you're speaking on the same topic that you don't rehash something that somebody else has already said. Only please give us new information. We do have a written request by Chip Swan to address the board, so he can go first.
Ma'am, I would like to let anybody else that would like to speak to the board to speak before I speak, and then I would like to go after. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
I'll do my introduction. Y'all know who I am anyhow. Jeannie Zortman, and I'm here before the Head Start mandate. As you all know, there is a stay. And after listening to the Supreme Court arguments, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I've listened to a lot of pundits, did some research, talked to one of the attorneys that is in on that lawsuit, which is our Attorney General, soon to be governor. And I believe that the mandates will fail. Our president has said it's up to the states. The legislature just met today, and they're working on some anti-mandates. I know you guys made a policy. What I'm asking is just put it on pause. From some of my friends back there that attended the last meeting when this was discussed, y'all aren't going to enforce it. I don't understand that. If you're going to make a policy and you're not going to enforce it, you're wasting your time. I have been a child advocate for many, many years, and I cannot see the sense in putting masks on children. I feel like it's abuse. If any of you have ever studied child development, return and serve, you can't do that with a mask on. So I'm asking you, just put a pause on it. And wait for the courts to make their decision and then carry on.
School board and fellow citizens. I wanted to share with you a note of gratitude and thank you for 2022. Thank you for a brand new year in 2022 AD. You can give us new opportunities to embellish our children's God-given potential of a quality education. Thank you for the fresh new curriculum, Carrie and staff. This fresh new curriculum that's been on display for the public to look at. We really appreciate that because it can help our children compete with Beijing, China, Tokyo, Japan, and Seoul, South Korea. With your kind blessing and our hearts redirected to heaven's agenda, help us to fill the children's hearts with kindness and compassion so we can have the unique success of sending out confident leaders who are not intimidated by fear or unlawful mandates. For you, O Lord God Most High, have not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. So I thank you, Lord Jesus, that with your help, Dodge City Schools can become a beacon of light that will graduate many, many outstanding citizens that you, God, can use in the days ahead. Nothing is too difficult for you. Marcia Couch.
Thank you.
Hello, all of you friendly faces. I just wanted to get up here and just kind of share my 2 cents. So my pastor preached a really good message on Sunday, and it was on the blood covenant. And I know some of us were there for that message, and it was all about the provision that God provides under that blood covenant, and that nothing can get in the way of that covenant that we have with Jesus. And kind of nervous. I understand that just learning through the election and stuff that the board and the school district is funded through the government, through the state government, through the federal government. But I'd just like to stand up here and say that the government is supposed to be here for us, and if they're not, then our job is to rely on God's provision. And I believe that God could provide what our community needs in a preschool and a daycare, and I just believe that God could provide for us in that. And I just wanted to get up here and share that I just believe mandates are not the answer, that if the government is not for us, then they're probably working against us, but our God is for us. And so, thank you.
Thanks, Nikki.
Hello again. Board of Directors, I want to thank you again for letting me speak. I haven't had my opportunity to thank Director Gertzen here, but I know that you guys told him it's going to be easy, but it's not going to be. But I think you're going to find that it's an honor to serve our students and our area well, so I'll say that. I'll start with this. My health insurance company called me, and they told me they were going to offer me a $50 reduction in my premiums if I wore a mask in public. I told them I always wear a mask in public, so I'm game for that. So they went ahead and automatically gave me a $50 premium reduction. Well, of course, I don't wear a mask in public. I wear the mask some other places. But I'm asking you right now, did I just commit insurance fraud? Here's my 2 cents and why I'm here tonight. Your policy was voted on 12/13/2021 on a 4-3 margin. Your policy states this, and this is your policy. This is not why we were here for. We're here because Head Start mandated it. The policy states, beginning January 1st, 2022, all Head Start employees, classroom visitors, and Head Start students will be required to wear a mask or face covering upon entering and remaining within the hallways, classrooms of Bright Beginnings, Early Childhood, and Sunnyside Pre-K. All children attending early Head Start child care who are 2 years and older will follow the same requirement. It goes on and lists some exemptions like medical exemptions, religious exemptions, if the kid just doesn't want to wear a mask or whatever. I sat here and listened to you guys all state that we're not going to enforce it. Remember what I asked. Remember what I said. My insurance company gave me a $50 reduction. Attorney General Schmidt on December 21st, 2021, filed a lawsuit with other states' attorney generals challenging the mandates. And on last Friday, I sat down in Dr. Dirksen's office for about a 45-minute phenomenal visit, looked outside of his beautiful windows, and he and I are both in agreement that the policy is not enforceable right now. He believes that just the mere fact that it's stayed means it's not enforceable. I feel it shouldn't be enforceable because you guys aren't going to enforce it. But I would like to put that in writing. If you're not going to enforce a policy, then why have a policy? At the last meeting on 12/13/2021, Director Asmus asked the Board of Education to table the discussion until it was closer to the mandates, until the time that you had to do it. Right now, you can get one shot and have a COVID vaccination and be fully vaccinated, but we're not going to talk about vaccination. But on January 31st, 2022, you could have put in a policy that had a mask mandate, and then you could have actually enforced it and had teeth involved. But you guys didn't want to table it. I'm asking you to take upon the same issue again and place it on the agenda. I follow the Board of Education policy to add an item to the agenda, and the agenda, it's up to the Board of Education and the superintendent to decide if they want to add an agenda item. I simply ask that the policy be added to the agenda tonight so you can either rescind it, amend it, or until judicial finality. Judicial finality means that once it goes through the whole entire federal court system, that it is squashed or it says that it's good. At that point in time, I think it is a prudent time for our board of directors to go ahead and take that thing up. You could take it up in a special meeting. He could call a special meeting and have it, I think you have 48 hours to post it, am I correct? 48 hours to post a special meeting. So you could do it at that time. Or you can amend the policy right now and state in your policy that you will follow the Head Start judicial finality, meaning that if it is found to be not constitutional, that it sunsets. If it's found to be constitutional, then the policy goes into effect. You're basically not pulling the policy off the table, you're amending it. I feel you should rescind it. I follow board policy to put that on the agenda. I ask right now that somebody make a motion to open up discussion on this agenda piece so you guys can have the leaders of our Board of Education, leaders of our school district, the leaders of our community can speak upon this professionally. That's all I have for you guys. I hope you open up the floor to speak about that.
I'd like to say something about that. So I will make the motion that we open it up for one thing, because we don't know what the courts are going to say in regards to this. They may flip-flop on what the original order was, and they may say you can do this, but you can't do that. So I would make a motion that we open it only to vote to rescind it until we know what the courts are going to say.
I'd like to have our board counsel speak on that. As I understand it, at this point, there's no reason for us to have a vote.
I apologize, but he made a motion and either you seconded it and voted upon or not. This is a discussion. Against Robert Rules of Orders, this is our line.
We don't do Robert's rules.
So this was put on the agenda as an information item. So it would seem more appropriate to just talk about it through the existing agenda item and go from there. But I was going to just save my discussion until that point. But I didn't recommend it as an action item because administratively, the district has said we're not enforcing the policy pending judicial resolution. So we're not enforcing the policy, so I don't know where anybody's getting the idea that the policy is being enforced.
I think Mr. Swain's question was this, and this is what, are we not enforcing the mandate or a board policy?
Well, so the mandate is still there. I mean, the judge didn't repeal the mandate. The judge said, Dodge City and other Head Start programs, you can't enforce the mandate temporarily until judicial resolution occurs. So the mandate's still there. It's just you've been told you cannot enforce it right now. So that's why that was the first reason not to take action. The judge has said you will not enforce this mandate temporarily. So you've been told by a judge not to do something, and so I don't think you'll do it.
As have 25 states. Kansas is one of 25 states, I believe, is the right number.
So it only applies to the states that were parties to the lawsuit.
That's right.
So that's why I didn't think board action was necessary, because a judge has told you you may not enforce the policy.
We passed the policy for the purpose of implementation and then
Ryan,
enforcement.
you need to turn your mic on.
I think it's on, sorry. But we passed, the policy was passed for the purpose of implementation and then enforcement, right? So there's a stay on the implementation and enforcement. So I guess in my mind, why have a policy that's not going to be implemented and enforced? It's kind of a simple argument, but that would be a logical conclusion, I believe, so why not rescind
You could.
that?
You could. And then I guess if the court, upholds the mandate, then you'd be back to whether to pass a new
Pass one or
policy
not.
to implement it or not. So, that's the board's choice. The district, if they're gonna enforce the policy, then I guess would run the risk of being in contempt of court for violating a judge's order. I don't know why the district would do that.
I feel like at this point, it makes more sense to see what the courts do before we move further.
And if they fast track it like they did the other mandates, then you would have judicial resolution relatively quickly. It's not going to take years. The other mandates got up to the Supreme Court quickly because of the disagreement amongst the states and how to handle this. So a judge is telling you can't do it. Now, you could repeal the policy. I just don't think it's a necessary step because you can't enforce the policy the way it is.
I guess a follow-up question. So based on the stay, it can't be enforced, correct? Is that?
Right.
But there was discussion about us not enforcing it even before the stay, which is, in my mind, problematic, but.
Right. I agree. There was a lot of discussion about that you couldn't disenroll a child because they won't wear a mask. But I guess that did get a lot of chatter, but I think it's a little different as far as you're doing something now. You're not enforcing the policy because you're told it's under a temporary stay.
To be clear on that item, that was in the written material that we received from the federal government.
Right.
And that was their words, not ours. And then I did cite an example that we are under the federal mandate for transportation, and we haven't been sending discipline notes home to parents or whatever if students are not wearing the mask on the bus. We do enforce that rule to the degree that we provide masks, and we still know that we're required to use masks. So that was not something we concocted, and that was not something that we ourselves said we're going rogue. That was in the material that was handed out. Now, all these are good points that have been brought up, and I fully understand. I think if you watch the video, I think you guys remember I said if the court does make a ruling, we'll be the first in line to follow what the courts say, and we were. And we will continue to do that as well.
It seems a little silly to just automatically pass and repeal policies as these temporary decisions are made by a court, because you're going to have then potentially a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision. So then are you going to pass something in response to that, knowing that it's going right to the Supreme Court, and then you're going to pass or repeal something based on that? So it seems like just unnecessary action when you're already told by a judge you can't enforce the policy, you can't implement the policy.
I'm not a legal law expert, but there are cases involved with the military and vaccines. There's cases involved with healthcare and vaccines. I can't help but think, and large companies too, I can't help but believe they're all not going to be dealt with, probably at the highest court at some point. And so I'm not betting on anything, but it appears that there's going to be a stay for a while unless it does fast track for all of them.
If this would pass with the judge or whatever, that this is legal to go ahead and do, are we going to revote on it again, or does the policy stay? Because I think the elephant in the room, let's be honest, is we're going to have a different vote than we did the other night. I mean, we have a different board member, so I guess that's my question. Do we revote if the judge passes it? Do we revote at that time, or do you?
Wait for, that's why I
that time?
recommended waiting for finality, because you could have, 2 more steps. You could have congressional action after that of kind of the ping pong ball going back and forth. And so right now you have a policy, you cannot implement it by a judge's order. A judge who admits this is temporary and he knows that he was not the last one to decide this. He knows where this is headed. And so if the Fifth Circuit, if this is appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, so the next level, and they disagree with that district court judge, then you're probably left with, okay, are the states going to appeal that to the Supreme Court? Ultimately, that's where it goes.
Right.
And that's why I think you wait. Now, if the mandate is upheld, then you have an enforceable policy, and you'd have to then vote to repeal the policy.
But it reverts back to the policy we already have then.
Right.
I think that's what Jamie's
That's what I mean, the
asking.
policy hasn't been, the policy hasn't been repealed, the mandate hasn't been repealed, the mandate's still there. We're just waiting to see, is it gonna be upheld or not?
And if it's upheld, then we already have a policy in place that says, okay.
But that's a policy I disagree with.
Yeah, that's a
So why
policy I
wouldn't I
disagree with
second
as
and,
well.
you know what I'm saying, and redo it now?
Sure. I mean,
I guess, you know what I mean? I guess that's mine. If it does go, I still would like the opportunity to vote again. So that's,
Yeah, that's your guys' decision.
okay, so you could do it at that time or whenever, okay.
So we do have a motion on the table.
And this is to add to as an agenda item?
Well, we
have
have
the
it on,
agenda.
it's on the agenda, so.
But it's to vote, no, to vote. It's a voting item, right? Is that what
The item we
Eric's
had
motion was for?
is a information item, so he's adding the voting.
Okay, I'll second.
So, okay, so you're amending the agenda, or, I mean, are we jumping down to that place in the agenda?
I don't see a reason to jump down to
Okay.
it.
Okay.
We're about there.
Yeah. So we have a motion to make the Head Start vaccination and mask mandate update an action item rather than information only. Motion by Jared and a second by, was that Jamie?
It was me.
Ryan? All in favor of amending the agenda? Aye and hand raise.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, all opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So motion fails to carry for lack of majority vote. Okay, we are ready now for consent agenda. Yes. Okay, thank you, Carrie. On the consent agenda, we have the approval of personnel, including the supplemental personnel report, approval of minutes for the December 13th, 2021 Board of Education meeting, approval of donation from Norland Incorporated to the Dodge City High School Boys and Girls Wrestling Teams, approval of donation from Rocking H LLC to the Dodge City High School Choir, approval of Capital Power Renewable Energy Grant Award to Dodge City High School.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7-0. Okay, we're ready now for curriculum and instruction. I believe Dr. Springston is starting.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Dirksen. I'd like to introduce Sarah Hoff and Jennifer Jones. They're both high school teachers. Sarah teaches social studies at Dodge City High School, and Jennifer teaches in the science department. They are two of our members. We have about 17 district members each for science and for social studies. And so what we're bringing to you tonight is an overview of the process. Those that have been through this process before will see some similarity in the patterns and what we've done, because it's identical to what we did with our English language arts and our math. And so what I want to do is go through this overview. Today is an informational presentation. I will state that this morning, both work groups, we met this morning to go through our top choice and start to develop our purchase order. So there's a lot of detail in what we order, whether it's teacher materials or student materials. So I will close up our portion by kind of telling you what the next steps are. But tonight's just informational. It's also a time for you as a board to ask any questions, or if there's areas that you would like more information brought back to you at your next meeting, which is on the 24th. That's when and where I will bring a recommendation for action. I'll also have costs at that time. I will tell you I have visited with Hammer, and the funds are available. They're there. We'll do our due diligence, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end as well. We did open up review of materials, which was referenced by patrons here. In fact, today was the last day for review, and we had people come, and there were some that provided written responses, and so we are reviewing those as well. So I was very appreciative of the community, both our staff and the outward community's involvement in this, and being good stewards of what we do and what we put in front of our kids. So with that, I have a presentation. We'll just go through some of these real quick. And at any point in this process, if you have a question, stop us, please. Okay. I do want to state, because I think it's important to understand, there's a misconception out there, and I've shared this presentation with many of you in the past, but the resources we purchase, those books and materials like you see over here, that is not curriculum. Okay? It is a resource that supports curriculum, which what we're looking at, the definition of curriculum, is the information that our kids are being taught, what they're supposed to be able to show and demonstrate either by topic or by grade level or both. And so that can come in a lot of different forms. It could come in a print material, it could be online. It could also be probably the most important thing, and that's that instructional planning, that daily lesson plan that the teacher puts together all of that information and makes that connection with the kids. So the resources are critical, they're important, and we went through some vetting criteria, which you'll hear shortly. They help make that job of the instruction that much more impactful and that much more effective. So I don't want to overemphasize or underemphasize the importance of the materials we select, whether it's print or online. But it is an aid to help our teachers, which are our greatest asset and our #1 impact on student achievement. As we look at this, we're also embedding professional development. We're a teaching and learning institution, not just for our kids, but also our adults. And so we will have professional development embedded throughout this process, not just year 1, but also years 2, 3, and 4, and so on. So professional development will be critical to this component, and it will be reflected in the purchase order that I bring to you. So I hit this already a little bit when we talk about tight and loose coupling. So what we talk about the systematic alignment in the district. So our state has adopted curriculum standards by grade level or by topic for both science and social studies, just as I presented to you with English language arts and math. So these are those waypoints saying that first grader should learn at the end of their first grade year. They should have been exposed to and be able to show and demonstrate these social studies standards, which are driven by a set of national standards then that our state looks at and adopts, and we follow what the state adopts. And we do that for all of our content area. Some of the other non-content area are governed by different boards, whether it's CTE, it could be workforce standards that are out there. So we use those waypoints to know where our kids need to be. That gives us the ability to plan accordingly. So we're very tight on that. And there's a scope and sequence as to what should be taught. So we design those curriculum guides, which is our map, and our pacing guides, which break it down by calendar days, what should be taught. So those are the same no matter what building you teach in. So that first grade scenario, regardless of what building you're in, those teachers are going to have those maps and those pacing guides no matter where they are. So that's tight as a district. We need to ensure that and guarantee that that viable and appropriate curriculum is being taught in the manner and the scope in which it needs to be to make sure that our graduates as seniors have that base knowledge that they need to have to be a productive citizen when they graduate from us. The loose coupling is how it's taught. And as I mentioned, that's the most important piece. Research and studies show conclusively that the #1 impact on student outcome is not going to be the book you select. It's going to be the teacher that uses that book or uses that online resource. So I want to make sure that we understand our greatest asset, and I know you know this, are the teachers and those instructional support classified staff that we put in place, our principals, everyone that works with those kids. That's the most important thing. They have the science, which is that tight coupling, but that art of teaching, which is what they bring to the table we can't replicate in a book or in a PD. So those are some things that we have really set as our framework across the district in any curriculum we look at as far as what's tight and loose. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the experts.
If you haven't met me before, I'm Sarah Hoff, and I'm at the high school. Our work group member makeup.
Can you pull the mic down?
I'm always so short. I apologize.
I didn't want to say it that way.
Okay, so if you didn't hear me, my name's Sarah Hoff. I teach at the high school. I teach history. Our work group member makeup started actually last spring. The administrators from each of the buildings, the 2 middle schools and the high school, got together and chose the teachers who would make up this group. So we have teachers from both of the middle schools from 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then a representative for each of the subjects that we teach within history and science at the high school. So we have quite a few more high school teachers there as a result, because we have so many different subjects. And we also, as we started meeting, we're brought in support staff from administration. So for example, John Hansen was working with us from the high school on the social studies side of things, and for science, Mr. Martinez from the high school was working with the science to kind of have that admin point of view. And we had instructional coaches. Kaylee Chilton worked with social studies, and Heather Steiner worked with science. Diana from the migrant office also came to talk to us about the ESOL standards to make sure that they were being addressed in our vetting process and embedded in our curriculum. Questions? Okay. So this is a process that has actually been going on for a long time. This isn't something that we just started in September. When the groups were chosen, I know I can speak from the high school point of view for sure. In the spring, when we were chosen to be on this work group committee, we were asked to start compiling the list of resources that we already use in our classrooms. So again, we looked at our books that we use, but we also started writing down a lot of the supplemental things that we bring in. So from the history perspective, I bring in a lot of primary documents, secondary documents from historians. So we listed those things out as well so that we had them all in one place and everybody would have that. I know that science at the high school did the exact same thing. And when we came together in September, the high school worked with the middle schools to see what kind of supplemental materials they had been using and what their resources were like. Did they like their current book? How far were they going? So that we can match our curriculum much better. So in September we met and kind of started looking at that curriculum, realigning it. The state has not changed much for social studies. The state standards were readopted a year ago, and they remained essentially the same. So we were just meeting together to make sure that we were all still in the same area. Science did change, and no, it didn't? Okay, so again, you were just reaffirming that you had that curriculum in place and that you are all in the same scope and sequence. Starting in October, again, we were meeting to finish up that curriculum work and then deciding on what resources we wanted to have called in. So looking at the publishers. For social studies, we talked to other social studies teachers. Like I'm a member of several different groups across the state and country. And so I asked for their opinions. And then we looked at their websites and decided which ones we wanted to have. Other people in our department did the same thing. Science, they had their own process. Did you want to speak to that, Jen? Okay, she'll speak up again in a few minutes. And then in November and December, we began vetting those materials. They were delivered, and we used rubrics. The social studies department, between the middle schools and the high schools, we created our own rubric. It was very similar to what math and ELA used. We just modified it to ensure that it could account for the fact that the district is now using Google Classroom as our platform. We wanted to make sure whatever we looked at was compatible with that, and looking to see if they addressed Kansas standards at all. And then I know at the high school, the social studies department got to see all of our books just last week, and we gathered those opinions as well. I think, did that sound, are there any questions from?
Ma'am, very good. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Jones, and I'm the science department head at Dodge City High School. Materials have been made available for review for the feedback from staff and community. So we had staff opportunity to come, whoever wanted to come here. I know in our meetings too at the high school that we've met in December and even last week in January, we had discussions about what choices were made and how we might make some of those changes. We've had logins to look at all of the material as well if we weren't sitting up here. So I know from December 10th to January 7th, and some of those, some talking points were sent out to community members throughout. I know I got them from my daughter too at Ross. So everybody was provided a rubric that was used by the committee. And then that feedback was collected, and Dr. Springston is going over that. As far as the vendor selection process, with what we have done, we've tried to make sure that it was aligned to all of our state and national standards. Within science, we go by our next generation science standards, which are national standards, and they were implemented in 2014. We rewrote ours in 2013 and have kind of kept an eye on all of those things. So science used what we call Ed Reports, and Ed Reports is an independent nonprofit that's designed to ensure K-12 education is adhering to the standards. Along with science, we have an engineering design with our labs and stuff, so Ed Reports included all of that pieces. 6 to 8 science has been reviewed at the Ed Reports level. High school was not included in that, but we used that rubric as we looked through all of the materials to make sure all of those lab pieces and the next generation standards were met. As we went through those things, we did conduct our research. What we already used in the science department, we use Vernier lab probes. And it's a software, hardware software, and they're probes that do all kinds of stuff. And so we have that a lot already embedded in our curriculum and have a lot of pieces to that. So that was included kind of in our thinking process as we include some of those labs. And then we reviewed all the print and online materials. I know I was in a couple of Facebook groups that have thousands of health science teachers and science teachers, and I know we all used our resources when we looked at what to bring in. And so we brought all those top pieces in, and then we looked at it kind of as a group and individual for our courses.
Okay, thank you. Let me just kind of wrap up kind of where we are as far as the next steps, but I hope you got a pretty good idea of the complexity, depth, and transparency by which we went through this process, as well as the talent that we have leading this. One thing that was a little different with this is that if you noticed, like at the high school, in one of our PD days, we sent all the materials up so every single teacher at the high school had a chance to go through it. This is early on before we even got to the final vetting process. Now, in your packet, you do see there's an extensive list by grade level or topic. There's a timeline in there, and then the second one is what we looked at and rank ordered in the top 3. So what we did this morning was took the top 1 and started developing those purchase orders. So what's going to happen starting tomorrow is we're going to continue the reference checks. I'm going to start putting together those purchase orders, look at bundles, make sure that we're being as responsible with taxpayer dollars as we possibly can, but at the same time making sure that our students and teachers are getting what they need. We will look at a 6-year contract like we have with the other ones. I will go through, and I've learned some lessons as well as I go through this. I'll do things and negotiate bundles and prices if we're using for other materials. So I'll use what I can based on the volume that we purchase to be able to get the best price point we can, not only for print materials, but also professional development. So we will look at all those things knowing we're in a blended environment where we got print and digital needs going forward. So I'll work with all that, check references, and then bring that to you at your January 24th board meeting. So if there are any other questions, I know you got a full agenda, and I think there's a football game starting in 2 minutes for some of you.
You might be right. You might be
Maybe
right.
out over here.
And I'm gonna make it.
I don't know, Alabama? Okay, whatever. All right.
Dr. Springson, I just want to point out, Scott hit on it, but I think it's real important that we appreciate the presentation for the process that has gone into this. We know these are national topics. We care about our kids, and we want to update our curriculum, and we're sharing with you exactly how we're doing it. What I like is the involvement of our departments and our faculty. We have with us the head of the science department. We have with us this year's nominee for master teacher. We have great representation here tonight, and I think that speaks louder than any administrator can stand before you and speak. I'm sorry, but but I think
good leaders, surround yourself with good
that's
people.
right. That's exactly right. And so I just wanted to point that out and appreciate the steps that we're taking. I want the board to appreciate it as well.
And Scott, I wanted to tell you that I know one of the community members sent you a question that they had, and they were very complimentary of how you responded to it, and then they're very complimentary of the choice you made.
Okay.
So that's great when a constituent calls and said, I had a question, they got right back with me, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, ladies.
We're back to you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, each of you.
Mrs. Nedler, you're back, or you're up.
Okay, so I know that some of this information will be a repeat of some of the stuff that we shared earlier, but I'm going to go ahead with what I planned, and then we can go from there. So in December, we brought to you information about the Head Start interim final rule and policies that met that interim final rule. So I want to go back now just a moment and read what was listed in current considerations on that consideration sheet for the policies. Right Beginnings Early Childhood and Sunnyside Pre-K are creating both policies, both the vaccination and masking policy to be in compliance with the interim final rule on vaccination and masking requirements released by the Office of Head Start on November 29th, 21. On January 1st, a Louisiana federal judge blocked the implementation of the enforcement of the interim final rule on vaccine and mask requirements in 25 states, including Kansas. On the Office of Head Start website that has COVID facts, dated on January 3rd of 22, they had a litigation update. And again, it says on January 1st, 22, following the decision by the United States District Court in Western District of Louisiana, implementation of the enforcement of the vaccination, I'm not going to read the interim rule again, including Kansas, Head Start, Early Head Start child care partnerships and grant recipients in those 24 states are not required to comply with the interim final rule pending future developments on litigation. So in your current consideration sheet, we shared some background information about from the Department of Health with the restrain and enjoined and restrained from implementing, and then also just information on the injunction. So our current consideration is due to the temporary block of the interim final rule on vaccine and mask requirements to hold. A hold will be placed on the implementation of the vaccination and masking policies approved on December 13th until the court reaches a final resolution. So because this is an information item, we are requesting that you receive information about the hold on the vaccination and mask mandates. So what questions may I help answer? And then if we need Clayton to come up, we can do that as well.
I do have I mean, we've been discussing this already, but, you know, my vote was predicated on enforcement and how we were going to enforce it. Simply because I did not believe we need to shut a program down that affected 400 children and their families. But I do believe that it is almost immoral to put masks on small children. And if we come to a point where we are asked to enforce that, I've got a little bit of a moral issue in saying we're not going to enforce it. And I've wrestled with this for weeks, and it's really, but I cannot, in good conscience, even more than the vaccine mandates, which I don't believe in, mandates, but the mask on small children is something that bothers me. And so if the mandate is passed, and then if we're under that mandate, then I don't know how, I feel a little fraudulent in saying, and Tammy, I don't expect you to give me an answer.
But I have one.
Okay.
So I know exactly where you're at, and I'm there also. However, I do feel like we can follow the mandate and still give our families choices. And as we shared in December, we will not disenroll. We're not saying nobody has to do anything. We're going to pretend like it doesn't exist. We have a mandate. If it does go through the stay, if it does come into where we have to be at a point of enforcing it, we will set out the rule, we will set out the expectation, and we will inform our families. But like we said, that if a parent does not want it, it does not have to happen. We are not going to pick them up and force them on kids' faces. So you can enforce a mandate in good faith and honor parents' choices at the same time, because our Head Start rules allow that. We will not disenroll due to lots of other things, and this is one of those. So you can still follow what is required and honor family choices. I believe we can do both.
And we will.
So at this point, due to the injunctions, we are on hold until there is more information. What other questions or comments would you have before I sit?
The only question I have is, all of our daycare that we have, is that all Head Start, or is that just the state only?
It's all Head Start. We don't have any directly federally funded childcare slots. We have state-funded childcare slots that are under the umbrella of Head Start. And so all of our childcare then, in turn, are Head Start or the Head Start partnership pieces. So it is all connected, even though like our 3 to 5 are directly funded per child in Head Start. Our childcare is under the umbrella, funded by partners.
How many employees take advantage of that opportunity with childcare? Do you have
How many of our district employees are? I would have to get that, but I can get that and put it in, we can review. Anything else? We can look into costs and different things and share that. I mean, that's something that we can bring back.
Okay.
Because the state funds pre-K in one manner. Head Start funds pre-K in another manner with different expectations of programming and things. And so we can bring costs to the board to help them understand the amount of cost that would be, and then see what we can do.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. And just for the record, I said the feds can keep their money. It's not their money. The federal government doesn't have money. That's our money. That's my money. So.
Anything else?
Yeah, our family's aware that it's at a stay now, because I know there was a lot of, stuff going around about it. So I just want to make sure that we have it contacted.
Yeah,
that
so
we're not-
so AC and his staff sent out information, and they started sending out information. I think, I don't remember if it was Monday or Monday and Tuesday, but yes, they started sending that out prior to kids coming. Now, like all of us, I get a lot of information that I don't always read right away. So, but yes, people have been informed. Anybody else? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Tammy. Very difficult, but appreciate your effort.
Yes, appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Russell?
Good evening, board members, Dr. Dirksen. I just have one request for you tonight, and that's looking for approval for the second phase of the Memorial Stadium project. The lion's share of what this will end up being is going to be dealing a lot with ADA compliance. Now, we are going to refinish, in that scope is refinishing the visitors' locker room. We started and we stopped where we stopped because that's where the money stopped. So if we were trying to be really efficient, we would have finished that in the first phase. So it's something that really has to happen. The plumbing still needs to be gutted and fixed in that portion of it. And then the rest of it is all dealing with widening the aisles and putting railing down the center of the aisles. That'll happen on both sides of the stadium. If you remember, there's a platform that is on the west side to the north, separate from the rest of the seating. That's where the ADA seating, which is out of compliance. They need to be dispersed within the stands, so it will take care of that. Our railings, for example, on the front side are horizontal and they're fairly wide. They're supposed to be 4 inches apart. So I probably should have given you a percentage, but I'll bet you 2/3, maybe 3/4 is probably dealing with ADA compliances. I mean, I'm happy to give you some more detailed information if you would like. What we really wanted to do was bring a bigger package before you that dealt with the parking lots, but we're still working through some issues on that, and it's taking us longer to get a plan together. So since football season has ended, we know what we want to do with phase 2, or at least what we're bringing forward to you tonight. We wanted to get that, at least get it started. And whenever we get the rest of the details figured out, go ahead and bring what we'll call now phase 3 before you at that time, which could be February, could be March. In other words, we won't wait until we finish all of this before we start the next phase. But because we knew what we wanted to do and nothing's happening over there right now, and we want to get this going so that it is done and ready by the time football season starts again in the fall. But I'm happy to give you any more detail if you would like, or
Do you have
history.
a timeline, like how is that going to affect girls soccer and track and the other users of the facility?
The only issue with the track is we've got to get some stairs built so that they can get up to the field. But I believe we're okay on that. Yeah, Brian's saying that. We talked about all that. Again, the sooner we get started, the sooner we finish. So.
Gifford has been involved in these
Yeah, oh, yeah,
conversations.
yep, Jay's been in there.
So we're aware of this and staying on top of that.
So we won't have to relocate like girls soccer? or
No,
anything for
no,
that?
we'll make it a safe place like we did in the past, so.
Most of this is happening in the stands themselves, so it might affect where you sit or if you can sit on one side versus the other, but the actual track itself, I believe will be fine.
Awesome, thanks.
Is the plumbing original to the facility?
I believe it
currently
is.
there? Yeah.
Well, we got rid of a lot of it. Most of it is okay.
What's
now,
being
but-
replaced?
Yeah, yes, yep.
Well, and Brian and his crew do a great job of getting ready for events. They've done a great job with that.
Any other questions?
I just want to point out, we've received many, many compliments about Phase 1, and the anticipation of this next step is genuine, and I think it will help bring more of a wholeness to the whole project. I also want you to know the number one thing I wanted when we started was the handrails on the steps. And that was because of lack of availability of materials, that we weren't able to put that in earlier. We now think we have access to that, so I'm very excited about this because I think it will benefit the community as a whole in many ways. So that's one thing I really want to see happen. So I'm excited about this being approved.
It's an action item.
I make a motion for approval.
Second. Motion by Tammy, second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7-0.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Hammer. Dr. Dirksen?
Okay, I got a number of items here. We'll go through them. 2019 Senate Bill 130 became law, and it changed the board election dates to more align with regular elections, if you will. Along with that, the legislature made it a possibility to change the election of school board officers. We, like many school districts, have left it with the school year known July 1 to June 30th. And in order to do that, that's still a very viable, accepted way, but each January you have to approve resolutions stating that that's what you're doing. So if you agree with me that that is a good process, then I ask that you approve resolutions A and B. A is the election of school board officers, would continue in July like we've always done. And B is the meeting dates, which is just a repeat of what we said last July.
Second. Motion by Ryan, second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7-0.
My next item deals with the board policies. This is our second reading. Each one of these policies is a revision. Therefore, without much ado, I would ask that you approve these to become adopted board policy based on KASB's recommendation for the revisions listed.
I'll make a motion.
A second. Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7-0.
Next, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a roundup. Start with our least favorite topic with help. Mr. Lampe is going to help me here, but COVID. I just want to point out to the board, knowing that we are speaking to a gallery as well, things are more confusing today than they were a year and a half ago. I hope you understand that. We saw some of that tonight. We see some of it every time we turn on TV. Chicago is in their 4th day of schools being shut down because the school district and the city cannot agree. Wichita is voting tonight on mandating different policies, yada, yada. It goes on. However, in Dodge City, where we've kind of made a commitment that we're going to try to use common sense, I want it to be known we have tremendous communication with the Ford County Health Department, and they've been very helpful. And I continue to give shout outs for their cooperation and their help. And yet they continue to have enforcement that they have to follow. But they deserve credit because it's not an easy job and it's a difficult task. And maybe you're going to speak about the quarantine days changing and all that. I don't know if you were planning on talking to that or just read the numbers. Why don't I turn it over to you and you lead with that and then go to the numbers?
Okay. Well, I think most of you are aware that the CDC came out with some new guidelines for the quarantines. They've basically said that these are not specifically for K-12 schools, but for the general public. After talking with Dr. Dirksen and with the County Health Director, Angela Sowers, we decided that because the county is going to adopt, well, KDHE adopted CDC's rules and guidelines, so the county followed suit. And we decided that we would follow what the county's doing because we really didn't want, when they call the school, what do you do? What are we supposed to do? and then they call the county and they get a different answer. We wanted to stay on the same page, and since the beginning of this, we have kind of followed whatever the county was following, is what we've done. And so we are following those new guidelines. Does anybody have any questions on those guidelines?
Are you gonna update it in the policy? There's a couple spots in there where it says follow the county, and then later on it says 7 days.
Because that's what the county was doing at the time.
Okay.
We were following the county before, and we still are, but it has changed. And yes, I think Terry was working on getting that put onto the website today, and I've already talked to all the administrators and all the school nurses, so everybody's aware of what we're doing. 5 days at home. If you test positive, you're 5 days at home, and then 5 days with a mask. And that's if you can come back with a mask if you don't have any symptoms. So it helps those people that never got any symptoms and they weren't sick, and so they're able to come back to work. But they are supposed to wear a mask when they come back for 5 more days.
I just want to point out before you go on that it's been indicated that some school districts have, one district I know has 5 counties in the district, and each county has their own set of rules. And there are classrooms that have kids that have different quarantine times, and I don't know who is keeping track of that, but can you imagine the catastrophe that is? And that's been on the listserv going around. So that's how chaotic this is. That's why when I started out, I said it's worse now than it was a year and a half ago. It's crazy.
Moving on to our numbers, we're not immune to anything in Dodge City or in our schools. Kind of what you've seen with the United States and what you've seen with Kansas and what you've seen with Ford County is where we're at. Our numbers are back up to about like they were last year. After the holidays, we came back and we had really big numbers. This afternoon, we had 39 active cases in students, positive cases. We've had, since Christmas break, we've had 71 positive cases. Our quarantine numbers, we've had 230 quarantines beyond that are outside of the positive cases. Staff members, this number is a little higher than I think it was last year at this time, but it's 22. We have 22 staff members who are active positive cases. We've had 36 total.
Seeing that go up, and I just wanted you to be aware of that trend because that just puts stress on substitutes, that puts stress on filling classrooms, bus drivers, cooks. It can affect every aspect.
I was going to say that too, is those numbers are spread all over the district. I mean, it's not just, 1 or 2 schools. It's not just 1 or 2 staff member, areas with staff. It's everywhere. So.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate your information and your continued help in this area. Thank you. All right, I wanted to share with you, legislature did start today. Hammer and I had good visits with all 3 of our representatives. Redistricting was the one topic that was brought up every time they're worried about the boundaries. The whole legislature is. Food sales tax, legalization of marijuana, all these things were mentioned before school finance. But to a person, they did talk about understanding that the lawsuit had been settled and we're in a good spot, and that was a good place to be. And of course, Dodge City, before I got here, was a part of that. And for a good reason, we've helped the entire state in school funding, and so that's a good thing. So hopefully that doesn't get tinkered with. What I think it does is each of these events, they were individual meetings with Hammer and I. It just opens up a good rapport and just refreshes the connections that we've had. And that's great when you share with a legislator to call you anytime, and he says he will, and they usually do. And so I appreciate that, and we got a lot out of it. And I appreciate Hammer sharing the time too. I think he found it pretty interesting as well to see why neither one of us ever want to be a politician. Then I also want to remind everybody, KASB board training is January 31st 6 p.m. It's the fifth Monday. I do want to start with a quick lesson tonight for a new board member, a review for all board members. Never, ever hit reply all. If you get an email, do never send an email to all board members. That's an immediate violation of Open Meetings Act. We all know that. I just want to remind you of that. And we're not on YouTube, so this isn't going out anywhere. Is that a fact? Okay, well, I wanted it to be on YouTube because I wanted to talk about the weather. Superintendent's favorite topic. It's never easy.
Vilified.
Yep. However, I just want to stand by the fact that safety is always a concern. However, there's difficulty in understanding safety because it's subjective. Because if you believe a 3-inch snow in Kansas is a safety issue, then there are years we'll miss a lot of school. And yes, on the wind day, I knew the wind was going to come up. Diana Laura is outstanding at being prepared, getting up early, starting the buses. She starts calling the National Weather Service, which is a mile east of Dodge City, I'll remind you, at 3 in the morning. And we had reports all morning long of what the weather was going to do, and they were consistent that the wind was going to be in the 70-mile-an-hour range from 10 to 2. 10 to 2. All the way to the start of school, they were saying 10 to 2. And I felt like that was a window we could make. Knowing that, before it ever got bad, we canceled our afternoon trip to Hutchinson because we didn't want a bus out on the road during that time. We knew it was going to be bad and traveling east. And then once we saw it was getting worse than had been predicted, we canceled afternoon bright beginnings so that we didn't have all of that confusion going on with the afternoon class. And then when we saw it was going way beyond 2, we kept buses in place till 4 o'clock. So we did everything right in this situation we were in. I contend, I want you to know, we had mothers and children at several of our elementary schools because they thought their trailer house was going to blow apart. And they came to our school because they knew that was a safe place to be. That happened at more than one location. And I am confident that it is a better situation to be in a bad weather scenario like we were with our safe structures that we have than to send 7,000 kids home for a day because we had a weather report that it was going to be 70-mile-an-hour winds. How many kids would have been at home alone that day? And what would that fear have been in their hearts and minds if they were in that home by themselves or with their siblings? I think there's a lot to think about. I shudder at the thought of what happened in Colorado with the sparks of whatever were the source of the fire. And then, because it was going to be on YouTube, I wanted to make comment. Some things do irritate me. When people make comment on Dodge City Chat about we do it for the money, there is no money in having a day of school. That is not why we do it. It has nothing to do with dollars. And I also wanted to make a comment about someone that wanted me to do something that's medically and anatomically impossible to do with my cranium. There are body parts that you can't reach, and it doesn't change my decision on having school or not having school. But I do get some amusement out of some of those little things. However, you are the board, you can give me direction. I just come from the 1960 era where I thought we were supposed to be prepared to survive in a difficult world. And in Kansas, weather is not always Palm Springs Sunday. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Ice scares me to death. I don't like ice, and usually we don't fight ice. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know it's subjective. Other than that, that finishes the roundup to some level of degree. And then we come to my favorite item, superintendent's contract renewal, knowing that if I was really smart, we would have covered this first, and then I wouldn't have had to worry about the next 3 items, right? All right, but it is board policy that we're following every January. It doesn't even have to be brought before the board. But I believe in transparency. I think it should be brought before the board because I think it's very important that the board take the responsibility of the leadership of the district as you do, and I'm very honored to serve in this position. Therefore, I'd ask for your vote.
No, I just have a comment. Go ahead. Sorry, tell me when I'm supposed to get. I noticed that this is a 2-year contract, and we have the ability to make it a 1, 2, or 3-year contract. I would like the board to consider it being a 3-year contract, knowing the atmosphere in Kansas, not alone every other state, with superintendents leaving or the longevity of some people just deciding it's time to retire, because it's a tough time to be a superintendent or a leader of any organization at this point. Personally, I have a lot of faith in where Dr. Dirksen has brought us and where he is taking us. And for me, I think it's a vote of confidence that that 3-year contract be considered based on our investment in him and the need to keep him as part of the community.
I would agree with that, and so if we're looking for a motion, I would make a motion that we extend Dr. Dirksen a 3-year contract.
Oh.
You can't vote.
That'd be awesome.
Jamie second. All right, we have a motion by Jeff to amend Dr. Dirksen's contract from a 2-year contract to a 3-year contract, which would extend it to, is that June 30th of 2025? Would that be?
I believe that would be.
And Jamie seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
7-0. So you're stuck with us.
Wouldn't have want to go through this mess with anybody else, let me tell you.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And thank you for everything you do.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And if I may, I didn't want to say this before, I want to say this after, and I appreciate that. I was not expecting that, but that is an honor. As was indicated, we know difficulties that come with that. I've said this before, I always like saying this publicly because it's true, but this is the best job I've ever had. And you're compared to hauling hay on a Dewey's trailer and planting mums and tulips at Bartlett's Arboretum. So you have some tough competition that I've done in my career. But it's been an honor to serve. You remember when we interviewed, I said up to 10 years and not a day more, and good grief, this is my 5th year. So how fast that came. I truly believe in leadership, that you're either moving forward or you're going backwards. And I just wanted to share with the board and share with the administrators that I believe there are plenty of signs of good things that are happening. Simple examples, we have some applications for some administrative positions. We have people from outside the district that have been here on cooperating visits and that sort of thing. They're applying because they like what they're seeing and they want to be a part of that. Tomorrow I have a tour with an individual that I know from an outlying community that is a successful businessman that is looking for a 2.0 career and change in his life. And because he knows some people that work here, he likes what he's hearing and he wants to come visit Dodge City Schools. And tomorrow I have that visit with this individual, a very successful individual. And so nothing says a compliment more than someone wanting to come be a part of what you're doing. If you know anything about me, you know activities have always been important in my life. And as far as moving forward, there were a couple of highlights I wish could be on YouTube because I know you know this, but they deserve shout outs and I hope it gets shared. One example is our junior ROTC program under the leadership of Sergeant Gonzalez and Colonel Clavenaugh. What an outstanding program we've added and is moving us forward. Over 100 kids that are learning discipline, that are learning regiment, that are showing pride in a program that didn't exist several years ago. So that just pleases me. And the other one is our activities, both athletic and our arts areas. And all of our administrators that are involved with those activities deserve credit. But if you've noticed, I mean, not just good grief, we have the National Soccer Coach of the Year, but good grief, we have quality people in every position, and they're building more people that's helping our young people. And if you know anything about all the trouble we've talked about tonight, when it comes to activities, more than ever, our kids need that involvement. And so I'm very proud of the programs that we're building with the coaches and leadership that we have. I'm very proud of the activities that we provide for our kids, and I just want to keep us moving forward in that area. The addition of the JAG program is another highlight that I think we have some great things coming because we're trying to identify ways we can help all kids, not just certain kids. So it's with honor and appreciation for what you just did for me that I wanted to share this information tonight. And thank all of you for being a part of this team and making the difference that it is. So.
Okay, we will go on to Board of Education member district responsibilities. Park and Rec. Ryan. Okay. And then Bright Beginnings Head Start.
I'm sorry, we have a meeting again next week, so that was the majority of it.
Special Ed, Jeff.
I have not been able to talk to Trina since before Christmas. So she hasn't called me, so I'll take that as things are going well.
Is there anything we need to know, Trina, or are we good? Okay. All right, thank you. Legislative, Ryan? No. Yeah. Capital outlay, you guys haven't met, right? No. And we'll have Jared on the calendar committee, but they haven't met at this point, so they'll contact you when it's time to do something on that. Ryan, we've got you scheduled to review district bills for the February meeting. We do have TOC coming up the end of this week, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, 79th Annual Tournament of Champions out at United Wireless Arena. We have the second board meeting of the month, January 24th. Our luncheon meeting will be at Comanche Middle School at noon. And then please remember January 31st, KASB board training for all 7 of us. That will be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. here in this room. Doug Meckel is coming out just for us, so I would like to have all of us here. We also, anybody have anything for future board meetings or additional information you need? Nope. Okay. We need an executive session for discussion of personnel matters. You said 10 minutes. And it's the board and Dr. Dirksen is who needed.
Okay, I make a motion for executive session for personnel matters for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Tracy. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.